So good morning all. Myself Harunshah Salim from Dataresolve NXT. First of all, I welcome you all to this webinar session. Dataresolve NXT, we are a cloud aggregator and cybersecurity solutions distributor. And today we have Mr. Laxan from Dataresolve, who is an Executive Director of Dataresolve EMEA region. And he will be explaining our topic, our main topic, workforce productivity and insider threat management for the modern workplace by sticking to an amazing cybersecurity product named Indefend. It has some advanced threat detection capabilities and also DLP capabilities and much more. So I'm sure Laxan will be diving in deep to the details and will be guiding us through the product in utmost clarity. So I welcome you all once again and welcome Laxan to the webinar. And Laxan, the stage is yours. So just before starting that, let me remind you two rules. So one, in the attendee section, if you have any questions to ask, there is a hand raise option that you can see on the center of your screen. So you can hand raise and you'll be getting the notification. And whenever Laxan is ready to answer that, he will be allowing that and he will be answering for that. Also, at the end of the session, we'll be having a Q&A section. So if you have any questions, you can either note it down or hand raise and ask, or you can keep it to the end of the session and you can ask at that time. So that's it. So Laxan, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Harun, for the introduction, and thanks a lot, everybody, for joining in. So I think Harun already made the introduction. So I handle EMEA region as an executive director for Dataresolve. So we are a company based out of India, and we have our office in Dubai. So we've been operating this office out of Dubai for the last 2 years or so. So this office would be largely focused on penetrating the EMEA market. So I'm already sharing my screen. So today's webinar is going to be focused. So large part of our demographic, what we have in the webinar today is from a partner side. So we are going to focus a lot on more of understanding the product as well as ways in which you can position this product to your customers, and how in which ways that that from our experience is more of a knowledge transfer, wherein we would try to gather the best practices where we have been successful in different parts of the world in selling the product, and try to kind of concise it and pass it on to all of you, so that you all may do the same thing. So I think let's start with the topic at hand. So the products that we have and the market segment we cater to largely centers around two main elements. So one is the operational risk management side of it. So there you have the likes of data loss prevention, insider threat management, fraud prevention, and some of those things, all to do with insider threats. So that is the risk management side of the platform. And then on the other side of the platform is more of the business intelligence aspect to it, which is the human resource efficiency. So there we have the employee productivity monitoring. Then we have the user and entity behavior driven process efficiency analytics. So these things are what would enable you not to be reactive in your sales, because the issue with most traditional DLP products is that the sales cycle tends to be more or less reactive, and those are more or less pull sales, wherein you wait for an opportunity to come, and there's a requirement for a DLP, you would just go and pitch it to your client. But with the additional components that you have, the insider threat management side of it, the productivity monitoring side of it, so these are things that would enable you to kind of knock on new doors and present it as a concept, a product, wherein you could make a push sale, a very proactive one, as opposed to a reactive one. So I think so we have participants from different parts of the world here today for the webinar. So as a common denominator, I think in most parts of the UAE and some parts of Middle East, we have more or less come back to a work from office kind of a mode. But in many other parts of the world, we still see, and we might likely continue to see different trends of how the workforce would look like in the future. So there's the distributed work module, and there's the remote work, and there's dynamic work, and also there are hybrid work models. And even in UAE, in many parts, we can still see that hybrid work model being in effect. So this is where a platform like ours can add a lot of value. Uh, Getting into a little bit of a technical details, so our platform is a server client architecture. So there's an endpoint agent running in every endpoint. So what happens is that there's a real-time monitoring aspect to all of these endpoints, irrespective of where they are in the world. And also there's a real-time tether to control these devices, whether they want to control the URLs that their employees are visiting, or they want to control the applications or emails or USBs or prints. So all aspects of what can happen inside an endpoint is not only monitorable, but it's also controllable through the platform. And another thing to focus on, especially this would come in very handy in terms of when you're positioning the product, because there's the age-old concept of human resource management, where most companies in the world used to go on a notion that the competitive advantage of a company is driven mostly through their products and capital, and the human resources of the company is just more of a support activity than a primary activity. So, but over the last 10 to 15 years, there's a huge shift towards changing from that traditional thinking and moving into a more of a strategic human resource management style. And the entire idea of strategic human resource management is predicated on understanding that it's not the products and the capital, it's the, because products and capitals can be mimicked and imitated by competitors, but what will add a unique competitive advantage to any organization is the human resources. And in terms of human resources, how efficiently can they run, and how loyal are they to the company, developing their skills. So all of this combined is what contributes to a sustained competitive advantage, whereas products and capital, like I said, anybody, it's a more of a very open market now in most parts of the world. So products and capital you have can be mimicked, but the value the human resources bring to your organization, that is what would segregate you from the other organizations in terms of competitive advantage. So diving a little more into the product side of things, so I think uh, I'm sure most of the attendees here, you would have some idea of how a data leak prevention tool works, a scope of it. But for the benefit of everyone here, I will just summarize it. So in any organization, there would be two sets of data that you would be planning to protect. So on one side of it would be your intellectual property, that data that is important to a company, that is proprietary to a company. So there you would have your products, processes, you would have your client and vendor information, financial information, in some cases it could be patents, it could be designs. So these are your intellectual property. So you're basically, with the help of a DLP, you will try to prevent this information from leaving the organization and falling into the hands of a third party. And the second aspect of a data loss prevention solution is the customer personally identifiable information. So we call it PII. So these would be like, for an instance, you go to a bank, you want to open an account, so you would give them all the details, your passport copies, ID copies, and everything. So these are stored, these are collected by a bank, like in this example, and they are collected to be processed to a, for a particular task, which in this case would be to open the account. But once that processing is done, or during the time that processing happens, so that information is still lying with that organization. But this information has been given to be processed only for one particular task. That information should not leak, should not be used in any other type of processing or any other process. So this is the part that is protected by data protection laws and regulations around the world. So this is a part where a company, it's not a fancy requirement of a company to protect that data anymore. More or less, there are government regulations in place where there's a mandate to ensure that this data does not leave the organization, and those who do not play a part in the original process of this data should not have access to it. And if they have access to it, what kind of controls are in place to prevent this data from going out? So, so these two types of data would largely reside in an organization in three main forms. So one is the data in use. So this is what you call the data that is currently being processed. And then there would be data in motion. And then there would be data at rest. So data in use is largely a purview of a data classification tool. Generally, DLPs don't do much with data in use, although we, as a differentiating DLP in the market, we do monitor data in use. We do certain aspects of monitoring, as well as certain prevention or like blocking aspects can happen. But mostly a purview of a DLP product would be in data in motion, because that is the time the data could leave the organization, could go into a third party cloud or a USB or an email. So data in motion is the main purview of a DLP. So this is where like most people would be looking towards a DLP to do. And additionally, there's the data at rest. So data at rest again becomes a purview of a classification tool as well as a DLP tool. The idea is it is it's proactive measures to know where the sensitive data of the organization is lying. So prior to setting it up to be tapped in data in motion, so it's important that you know where is your data. So more or less, this covers the scope of DLP platform. So coming back to our platform, which is our flagship platform, which is in defense. So I think we have already covered that it has a data loss prevention module. It has an insider threat management module. It has a user and entity behavior analytics module, and it has the employee productivity monitoring. So, getting into a little bit of technical information here. So, our product is very agile. It can be deployed either on-prem or on a cloud, or a private cloud of the customer. Or we also have the MSSP and SaaS models where the same platform could be deployed from one of our distributor clouds. If it's a small client, we could take that route. And to give you a bit of an idea of how the platform works, so the platform can be deployed on Windows users, Linux, as well as Mac users. So, and we also have a gateway module for email. So the entire idea is to have a centralized platform, and also to minimize the impact at the endpoint, to leave a lower resource footprint at the endpoint, because you know how it is with these days, multiple applications running at endpoints. It's going to take a toll on the endpoint, especially in organizations where the infrastructure is a little outdated. So we have countered that well. So we have kept all the processing to be done at the server level. So we have minimized the processing that happens at the endpoint level. So from endpoint level, it's more of a data collection and pushing that data towards the server, where all the processing will happen, and the content filtering policies and everything will be applied, and then the reporting will happen. So let's go back. So coming back to key client trends that we have observed, so like I said, so compliance is one of the main reasons why people go for our product or a similar product, because there are different government and other mandates that are driving this one. And so that the only issue with that is that it becomes a very reactive sales cycle, so that as a partner or a reseller, what you ideally want to do is to be able to have a product that you can tap in your existing customers and go to new customers and sell it as something that could add value to them practically, so that you can position it in a way that you're not just affording them a solution that could they could get compliance regulatory check done, but also you are offering them something operationally valuable. So this is where I think in a sales strategy, insider threat management aspect of it, the fraud prevention aspect of it, those productivity aspect of it, so that plays a huge role, especially in SMB to mid-corp enterprises, where you don't really have to go through and head of IT, and where head of IT has to go to management for approval. In some of these cases, you can approach owners and CEOs directly and say, hey, I can give you a platform where it will monitor your employee productivity. If anyone has any malicious intent, we can highlight that. So this malicious intent could be in multiple forms. It could be in terms of fraud, or there could be an employee who might leave the organization soon, or an employee who's looking for jobs, or who's looking having relationships with competitors of that organization in the market, or it could be just someone who is just being inappropriate with customers, inappropriate behavior towards other employees. So the idea of the platform is more to do with not only to gather the information, it's also to process the information and apply AI and machine learning based capabilities into it, so that we can iron out the noise and give crisp intelligence. So the idea is, in any organization, when you're talking about insider threats, an organization with 100 employees, let's say, would have 2 insider threats. The idea is, the platform is to centralize the visibility from currently that only a line manager would be able to see their employees, their conduct, in terms of being productive, in terms of being efficient, in terms of being loyal. So in any kind of behavior with malicious intent could be centralized, and we could give that intelligence to a executive committee of that organization, wherein they would at least be able to point their attention towards someone who could be a potentially an insider threat. So that of course they cannot investigate every employee of the organization. And I'm from a banking background, so we have a saying in when it comes to compliance and fraud prevention in banks, that somebody would get away with something so long as nobody is suspicious enough to look into it. Once somebody is suspicious enough to look into it, once they start looking into it, everything unravels. So this is something that we used to say about money laundering and fraud in banks. So the same policy applies here to most organizations. So our platform, we have built it to give that important insight, that at least to point the attention towards a set of people in the organization where they need a closer eye. So once you start looking into them, there are of course other ways of monitoring them outside the platform as well. So you would be able to isolate your insider threats in a more precise way. Harun, have we got any questions, any queries so far?
Laxan, no questions as of now.
Okay, perfect. So I
Yeah,
think I will go on.
yeah.
So the product, again, this boils down to positioning. Product has some niche capabilities. So one of the niche capabilities is our ability to integrate with many other solutions out there. We are agnostically capable of connecting to any SIM solution. We have worked with QRadars and logarithms and microfocus and a lot in the past. We can also work agnostically with any data classification platform out there, so that if a customer wants to integrate that, that is also possible, or any CASB or any sort of most of the other DRM and
That was not
encryption tools
visible.
as well. So we have worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
In many cases, coming back to where I left off, again, as for positioning, you can also check us out on Gartner Peer Insights. We have a 4.3 rating in Gartner Peer Insights, which is remarkable to a product in this segment. And the other thing, what most customers liked about our platform is the centralized console. So there's two aspects to it. One is the centralized console, and compared to other DLPs in the market where they require multiple servers to run their platform, ours run on a single server. And that single server also runs on a Linux platform, and we don't need any Oracle or any SQL databases to run it. So we can really minimize the total cost of ownership compared to our competitors in the market, because like I said, it's a single server, runs on Linux, so no operating system cost, no database cost. So total cost of ownership is another part where you can really focus on whether you are just pitching it to a customer or whether you are competing with any other DLP in the market, wherein they ask you what do you bring to the table that is different from the others. So this is another part that you can really focus on. I think let's have a look at the product a little bit so that there's a better, I think I have about another 20 more minutes. So I will come to the product. Harun, my screen is still visible, right? Okay, done. Good to go. So this is what the product looks like. So to come back to a holistic view, I will start with the level of information what we gather. So I'm going to just take out one particular user, and I'm going to try to showcase to the extent at which we gather the data. So as you can see here, we capture every second, every activity of every user across all of these activity channels, whether it's application activity, browser activity, CD, DVD activity, file upload, SMTP, email, Outlook web, USB, data at rest, search activity, printer activity. So to briefly run through the platform, the level of data we gather, it will have the agent name, it will have the host computer name, it will have the IP address from which the user is logged in at the time. So it will have the user who was logged into the device at the time. It will have the application name. If the application were to make a remote network connection, that can also be captured with the timestamp. Same with browser activity. Every website they go to, we will track it in terms of all the website. I mean, in terms of the websites they go to, as well as the time tracking option is there. So we would also be able to tell how much time they spent on Facebook, how much time they spent on YouTube. So both aspects would be actively captured. And then this part is more from a DLP point of view. So any files they upload, we would be able to tell you what was the file, where it was uploaded to, and we can also give you a shadow log of that file. So this shadow log feature is something that really differentiates us from the market, because no other DLP platform provides this. So we can give you the ability to download and leave a carbon copy of that file in question. It could be a file upload, it could be an email attachment, it could be something you copied to a USB drive, or something that you printed, or even a Microsoft Word or Excel file that you just opened and closed. Still, we can give you a carbon copy of that file, so you can investigate later and you will have the actual content of the file. So application file access also covers multiple things. So like I said, even if a user were to just open and close a Microsoft Word document, we will capture the log of that, including where that file was stored and the destination and everything. And if any application like a OneDrive or a torrent or anything were to, or even some malicious software were to access any of your files, whether it's in the background or in the foreground, we make a complete record of that as well, so that you would be able to kind of investigate later why was this particular application accessing these files. Then we have the email. So we record every email that leaves the organization. So we are compatible on all the email clients like Outlooks, Thunderbirds, and everyone. And we are also compatible with webmails like G Suite and uh, Outlook Web Access as well. So we will give you a complete trail of who sent the email, to whom it was sent, what was in the subject, what was in the body, the attachment, everything. And attachments can be downloaded, and you can view it. So in order for you to investigate. So entire track is there. And additionally, we will give you inputs like search activity of the organization. So you would be able to see who is searching for what in the organization. Here we have found some interesting use cases where companies are able to know who are searching for jobs, who are searching for so this gives you a kind of a proactive measure as an organization, because you have to understand the psychology of the risk, because if an employee who's leaving you is going to steal that company's data, that's going to happen prior to them giving you a resignation. They're not going to wait for them to give the resignation and then try to steal the data. They'll likely have a period wherein they would steal all the data, and then they would put in the resignation, knowing that once they resign, they might be monitored a little too closely. So with a platform like ours, with certain behavior aspects like what they are searching for, or we might be able to trigger it based on AI. We might be able to trigger if they're messing with their CVs a lot these days, if they're emailing their CVs, or if they're talking about jobs, they're emailing about interviews and stuff. So based on many of these behavior clues, we would be able to kind of predict who is not happy, who is on the lookout for a job. And in extension, you'd be able to take proactive measures in blocking certain access or keeping an eye on that employee even before that employee would resign, as well as you'd be able to anticipate that and make whichever plans that are required. So device activity as well, we cover a large spectrum. So any USB, CD, DVD that gets plugged into a device, we will capture that. Not only what all was, which all USB have been plugged into the platform. If any data transfer were to happen, we would be able to give you a copy of that as well, saying that this particular USB drive with this particular serial number was plugged into the device. And here are the file logs of what was copied, from where it was copied to where it was copied, and we can also give you a shadow log of that. So this is one more. So largely we have covered how we gather the data. Now the idea of the platform is not just to gather the data, because this would be a lot of noise for an organization with multiple employees. So the idea is that you process this data into in actionable intelligence. So this is where we have our incident module. So wherein what you can do with this module is you can create the set of activities that you deem is risky for an organization, and then instead of going through everybody's every email or every browser report, you would be able to have a dashboard view wherein you would be able to see, okay, I want to see who uploaded unauthorized files to unauthorized URLs. You can just click on that. it will show you these are the 5 users who have uploaded things to unauthorized URLs. And then you can click on any of these users. So it will show you a full report of who uploaded it, who was the user, what was the file that was uploaded, where it was uploaded to, what time it was uploaded. So this part is the machine learning part of the platform, wherein you can come, see the file that was uploaded, and if you feel that the file is benign and that file is not really sensitive to you, although you perceived as such, you can mark it as non-sensitive. So what will happen is that this particular file, this with same hash value, if we find this file in motion or in at rest anywhere else in the organization also, we will not re-trigger this as an incident. Or when it comes to incidents, you might want to see who sent personal emails to external domains. Again, you have the option to come here and check. It will show you a full view, who sent that email, to whom it was sent, and it will, if any sensitive keywords or if any sensitive patterns were found inside the email, like salary, job, anything, we will trigger that as well, so that you would know it. Not only this email went to outside, it's a personal email that went to outside, but he's also talking about a job and a salary. So maybe this is something that I need to look into. Again, if any attachments are there, we will show you the attachment and you can see that as well. So since we are running short of time, I'm going to quickly run through the productivity module of the platform as well. So when it comes to productivity, obviously as an organization, you would first not get into a micromanagement style of who is doing what. You obviously want to see a organization or a department level view of what is happening in your organization. So this is the part where the platform will tell you what is your average active screen time across all users in the department or in the entity, like average idle time, average productive time, average unproductive time, and it will show you graphs like how many people are coming into work every day, and productive applications, what are they, how much time has been spent on them, unproductive application, what are they, how much time has been spent on them. Same for productive website categories as well as unproductive website categories. Now if you want to investigate any of them individually, you can do that. Like for an instance, you want to see what are the applications where time was spent today. Like you might want to see, I want to see who are the users who use Explorer. So you can click on Explorer, it will show you who are the users who use Explorer and how long they used it for. So drill down capabilities are there, and at the end of the day, it's what you see in a report is an accumulation of every second, every activity of every user. So if any organization wants to investigate or drill down, you can obviously keep on going layer by layer until you arrive at the conclusion or find what you're looking for. It can also double back as a attendance marker, because we have login logout times. We can tell you what time did they first log in, or what time they came to work or started working, what time was the last logout, what was the duration of their work day, and out of the 6 hours of a work day, how much were they actually active on the computer for. So the other 5 hours they were idle. Now, this is where you might want to investigate a particular user. Why is his total active screen time is less? You can just click on that particular user. You can either see it on a day-to-day basis or for a particular date range. Like in this case, I've selected January. So wherein you can see that January, I want to see how many days he came to work. So it will show you. He only came to work 3 days in January. These are the times that he came to work. These are the times he left working. This is the total duration. And then I want to see his productivity summary. On a day by day or at an average, I can see how much was his active screen time, how much was his idle time, productive time, unproductive time. So I can see all of this in a glance. Now, if I want to investigate further, I can go into things like what are the productive applications he used, how long he used it for. What are the unproductive applications he used? How long he used it for? Same for web as well. What are the productive web and what are the unproductive websites that he visited, and how long he used it for? So I can investigate that as well. Now I'm going to go to the last and the most important part of the reporting side of the module. I think, would be a little short to get into the DLP and blocking side of the platform, but anyone who is interested, we can take it on a one-on-one session, or we can schedule another session dedicated just to the DLP side of the platform. So today we limit it to the reporting side of the platform. So this is what you call an executive dashboard. Now, the nicheness of this dashboard is for management to get a glance of how the organization is doing. This is for a CEO or a CTO of a small or large organization to see how is my organization faring. So there's overall health score, which is derived a combination of compliance, data protection, and productivity scores. So to explain, compliance core is mapped to regulatory frameworks. So if in an organization the DLP module is to allow everyone to do everything, then you would get the lowest compliance score. If you moderately block things, block users based on content, based on behavior, based on certain things, if you put monitoring mechanisms and whatnot, in that case, you get a better compliance score. Data protection scope purely derives from incidents. So you will define to the platform what is an incident for you, which incident or which activity looks like it would have a data protection, like a data leak potential, and you assign a particular severity to that particular activity. So based on how many breaches of those activities happen in the organization, you will get your score will keep on getting lower. So productivity score again is very similar. You will assign what is productive to my different employees or different departments, depending on their time, how they spend it, whether they spend it productively or unproductively. The score will be higher or lower, and this overall health score is obviously a combination of all. So as a CEO, CTO, in a minute now, I have had the glance of how my organization is doing. I can also go down a little further where I can see a chart of these are all the breaches that are happening in the organization. Now I can see a spike on a particular day. Now that day IT misuse incidents are so many. Probable data theft incidents also so many. So I see that there was a spike, then it's coming back to better. So now obviously I want to know why is there a spike. Now I want to know in a large organization or a small organization, from where is it coming from, who are these people who are creating troubles in the organization. So I first want to know from which department or from which region that these problems are coming from. So here you can have a look at it in a glance. On the left hand side is a regional delineation, and on the right hand side is a department wise delineation. Of course, you know, in large organization your sales department could be in multiple places. Your sales department could be north, east, like in different geographic locations. So these two would obviously overlap. So this is why we have made it very practically usable by giving you the visibility at a regional level as well as at a department level. Now, in this case, I can see that all these problems are coming from my sales department. So I can click on my sales department. It will give me a behavior summary of my sales department. Data theft potential is high. Productivity is not that great. IT misuse is also on the higher side. So now I know sales department is in a little bit of unsupervised mode right now. Now, as a CEO or a CTO, I can scroll down further. I will be shown all the users in that sales department. So I would know which one of these users are creating a lot of havoc in that organization. Because entire sales department might not be bad. It's just a few of those people who are creating a lot of violations. Now in this case, I have isolated that it is Richard who is creating all of these problems for sales department. So I can click on Richard. I can get a behavior summary for Richard. And I can also see all the violations that Richard is doing. Now, the idea of this platform is to send, now even CEO knows that someone who's 6 layers below him is doing this. Now, CEO might check it weekly or twice a month. He'll see that this name keeps on popping up again and again. Why hasn't his behavior been corrected? Why isn't his line manager taking any action to correct his behavior? So this is where it opens up possibilities. So either it opens up the possibility of remediation, because when line managers realize that CEOs are seeing what is happening under them, so line managers will try to control the situations a bit better. Employees will course correct their themselves to behave in a better way. Or else what will happen is that we have had instances where we have uncovered that these branch managers and all were like, they themselves were insider threats because they were doing some unethical activities. They had no control of the departments or teams. So departments and teams were running like, wild geese running around here and there. So where you will find either a problem or there would be a mitigation where or a remediation to it. So this is, I think, a key part of how you should pitch the platform if you are pitching it, because even a CEO, if you were to approach a CEO of a SME or a large mid-scale company, sorry, and if you show him this part of the platform that we can centralize the visibility and we can isolate troublemakers and show it to him on a weekly or a monthly basis, so this is where I think you would pique their interest, so that you would be able to, how it goes, like to get the budgets approved and everything, you would be able to fast forward your sale. So more or less, I think we have covered most of the reporting side of the platform. I think we have 7 more minutes remaining. So now, Harun, let's try to see if
Yeah.
anybody has any questions.
Yeah, Laxan, we have one question. So it is like this. How does this indefend ensure the protection of sensitive business information such as personal data and financial information? Yeah, I
Sure.
think you can see on the chat. Yeah,
Okay. My screen is still visible, right?
yeah, it's visible.
Okay, so like any DLP or any classification tool, so first of all, this part is covered in identification of data. So identification of data we do in three main flavors. One is at a keyword phrase management level, so wherein you can either upload a set of words that would help you to identify sensitive information to your organization. That is mode one. Mode 2 is what we call fingerprinting of unstructured data, wherein you might have a particular form or a particular document. You can upload that document into the platform and you can run this on a percentage mode, wherein you can say 80% or you can say 90%, wherein the document you uploaded, which has sensitive to your organization, if you find another document that is matching 90% to that particular document, then we can trigger it. So trigger could be in one scenario, you can say if for particular users, if it can just be an incident alert. Okay, I understand that he's emailing this particular file. Just let him do it, but inform someone about it. It could be a one remediation. For some users, you can say if these users try to do this activity, block them from doing it altogether. Some users, you can say just ignore. And second layer of data identification, what we do is at a pattern recognition level. So anything with a pattern like Emirates car ID, credit card, debit card, invoices, anything with a pattern, passports, could be fed into a regular expression, and we can identify any Emirates ID, any passport number using pattern recognition. Again, you can trigger an incident or a block policy based on this content recognition. Third is based on the file type and attributes. So of course you can use this from a productivity point of view to see who's downloading and who's messing with the video files and audio files and stuff like that. But from a security point of view, you can use this to identify attributes, like you can set up a trigger for password protected PDF only or non-password protected PDF only, wherein you can create a rule: if a PDF is password protected, do not let that PDF go out of the organization. Or could be other way around. If it is password protected, let them send it. If it is not password protected, make sure that the document doesn't leave the organization. So, Sandeep, I hope that covers your question.
Lakshan, we have one more question. It's like this. Could you explain how Indefend uses AI to detect and utilize cyber threats in real time?
Sure. One thing to understand here, Sachin, is that all DLP products, we are not about threats that are coming from outside. So you have EDRs, you have XDRs, you have malware, you have most of these platforms to prevent things from outside coming in. Now, DLPs perform a function that those things don't do. We are worried about insider threat. So basically, we are worried about people inside your organization doing something malicious. Sorry. Yes. So, what do you call? So, we are worried about things that are coming from, originating from inside the organization. So, having said that, we have certain capabilities because we do application monitoring and all. We can provide a last line of defense. So, this word, the term is very important, that a DLP should only be a last line of defense against any threat that is coming from outside. And these policies require a lot of tweaking. So for an instance, we have certain capability to sandbox particular applications for an instance. So I can take a particular application and I can sandbox that particular application to only make particular set of network connections. Like it could be what you call, like for an instance, I can take Microsoft Outlook and I can say, you know what, Microsoft Outlook can only uh, make a network connection to the SMTP and IMAP server, that it should not make connections anywhere else. So this is one way you can do it. So if at all on the notion that you get hacked, or if any incident were to happen, so of course we do not prevent it from happening, because like I said, it's a purview of other tools that are purpose built to stop that. We would provide the last line of defense by making sure that your data would not go out. So we can whitelist applications. So we have the shadow IT feature. So we have the sandboxing feature. So like for an instance, you have an internal database. You can specify that your internal database could only make connections to particular set of your internal IPs, and that data should not be leaving the organization. So, like I said, it's a last layer of protection, but it's good to have, where your ransomware and EDR fails to prevent something from coming in, will just prevent something from going out. Sachin, I hope it answers your question. So, any other questions? Any use cases anybody has in mind? Any functionality related questions?
If somebody have any particular use case, you can just throw it in and Laxan will guide you through. Yeah. I think Roshan Koshi is typing in. So,
Yes. Sure, Harun. I think
yeah.
you will upload the video, right?
Yeah, we'll be uploading the video and we'll be sharing the links to every
Sure.
attendees in an email also. Yeah. Yeah, sure, Roshan. We'll be sharing with you the video. Yeah.
Yes, Aslam. So you can do that. So depending on the platform you're using, it might be difficult to do prevent airdrop based on content. But if you want to cut it off completely, yes. Yes, it is, because there's a whole part of DLP. So I think I will just try to cover a little brief of it. So what we mostly showed was the reporting side of the platform. now that Aslam also had a similar question, we also have a DLP template where you can block USBs, where you can block your mobiles, Bluetooth devices, printers, where you can do enforce encryption on whatever data that is getting transferred to USBs, and you can block things based on content like I can allow users to use use the USBs, but if they were to transfer Emirates ID or a passport number, I will block that particular transfer from going into a USB drive. Similarly, we have policies for emails as well. We can block things based on sender domains, recipient domains. We can block things based on file type, or again we can block things based on content, like if Emirates ID or Dubai passport is found in an email, we can block that particular transaction from happening. So that is also possible. We have similar policies for file uploads. You can whitelist or blacklist certain domains where you want files to be uploaded or not uploaded. You can again block things based on document type. You can block things again based on content type. If any content is found inside the file, we can block that from going. We also have HTTP post put policy that could take care of all your form filling. Like here, if I'm to add a value and hit enter, it's a form filling. So that's another way how your data could leak in your chats, in your like a blog, like a comment or something like that. We can monitor as well as block that as well. We also have screenshot capabilities wherein you can either assign a periodic screenshot and say every 60 seconds or every 30 seconds take a screenshot, no matter what the user is doing. And we also have event triggered screenshots. So events you can specify, like for an instance, WhatsApp web or WhatsApp application. So you can say under normal circumstances, take a screenshot every 60 seconds. But if the users were to open WhatsApp web or WhatsApp app, then take screenshots every 15 seconds. So once the WhatsApp is minimized or closed, it will start going back to the normal routine of 60 seconds. Once your WhatsApp is open, it will take screenshots every 15 seconds. So like that, we have some really niche features that combines the DLP aspect, the insider threat management aspect. We can gather all logs, create intelligence, and then we can also give you the opportunity to come back and investigate. We can give you the shadow logs of files involved. We can tell you from where it was copied at what time. Then we can give you a screenshot for your confirmation. So it's a 360-degree holistic package when it comes to managing insider threats and operational risks.
Lakshan, we have
Okay,
one more question
Dinesh,
from Shish.
no,
Yeah.
none of the DLPs would be able to do this. So this is a purview of a classification tool. So according to Gartner and G2 parameters of a DLP, we are not supposed to edit any file. We are not supposed to make any changes to any file structure. So none of the DLPs would be able to do this, because the moment we start doing that, we don't get categorized as a DLP anymore. Watermark facility, like adding a meta tag, a header or a footer or a watermark, is the purview of a classification tool. So if you are looking for classification tool, because we are an Indian company, so we have a OEM level tie up with Classify. So we can pitch Dataresolve and Classify in combination wherever you want to pitch it to a customer. So because at the OEM level we have the integration and we have the tie up. And if you want to work with a different classification tool like a Titus or a Bolden James, we can work with that as well. But no DLP would be able to add a header, footer, or a meta tag or edit the file in any way. We can only alert, block, quarantine. We do not edit the file structure in any way. Shijish, I hope that answers your question. So, any other questions? And Roshan, no, we cannot put it into mobiles. We have done that in the past. Now, with the operating systems, we had a product called MobSec that was designed for that. But nowadays, iOS and many of the operating systems are becoming very hostile to platforms that are monitoring everything. So there are MDMs out there that are even MDMs out there are more from utility perspective now, not from I want to monitor what people are typing on WhatsApp point of view, because most what you call mobile OS platforms, they don't allow you to do this anymore. We used to do that, but we've discontinued that product entirely.
Election, I think that's. Oh no, Roshan is typing. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Roshan. So, Roshan, I will be sharing with you the video also. Election, so no more questions. And if there is no other questions, I believe we can wind up. So by the end of this meeting, you will be receiving an email. So if you have any specific ask or any questions, or if you need any further supports, you can reply to that particular email, and we can take it up. So thank you
If
so
anyone
much,
wants a
Laxan.
one-on-one session for their team, so if you have any client engagements that you want some help from our side too, we can of course help you with that.
Yeah. So that's it. Selection, I think we can wind up. And thank you so much, everyone, for your presence. And I believe it was an amazing, informative session from Lection. So thanks so much, Lection, for the wonderful section.
Okay.
And we'll be in touch with you. Whenever someone comes in for any support or any activities, let's catch up again. Wishing you a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for your time, and I hope you guys found it interesting and informative. And hopefully, I'll be working with all of you all in the future in our engagements as partners. And thanks a lot, Harun, for organizing it. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll be stopping this session in another 1 minute. Thank you all. Have a great day.